Okay, we're going to move on with our next speaker now. Thank you very much for the delicious morning tea. The next guest speaker we have is the Honourable Nola Marino, talking about romance scams. Who are you really talking to? Nola is a former member of the Australian House of Representatives for Forests between 2007 and 2025. 2025, yeah, I said that right, didn't I? We would just like to acknowledge Nola's long-standing service to the local community. And please put your hands together.
Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're enjoying yourselves here today and finding information that's useful to you in what you're doing online and in your lives. But thank you for coming along and showing an interest in these sorts of topics. Just so that you're aware, in my original time as a federal member of Parliament, I was part of a federal inquiry into cyber safety, and it led to me developing a series of overheads that I then presented hundreds of presentations into school children and into the community, and at times into business as well. And I've taken an active interest in the setting up of the E-Safety Commissioner's role in Canberra and ongoing legislation to help to keep us safe online. But don't think that this is happening to someone else somewhere else. It's all happening here in our part of the world, as it is happening not just within Western Australia, but around the world. And we are all vulnerable in this space, which is why we need to really stay alert. There is help out there for you, but you're the person behind the screen, so you are responsible. And I hope you know my greatest challenge has been getting through to parents and to adults as to what is actually going on, and do you know what's going on online? Because there's a real issue here. In real life, you as parents and grandparents, you've actively all your lives sought to keep your children safe and yourselves safe. And I asked the parents whenever I would front up to a session, where are your children right now? What are they doing? And who are they with? Because when they are online, they are somewhere with someone doing something. And do you know what that is? But the same thing equally applies to adults, because I've dealt with as many businesses, denial of service, not accessing their own data, and have they got the right security? Are they protecting their intellectual property in the way that they should? Groups and organisations, same deal. So what I'm here today, hopefully to share with you, is some of what you can do to help keep yourselves safe in this space, particularly in the romance scam space and in scams in general. Look at the actual cost of scams in Australia. You know, look at the amount of volume that it's costing people every year. So when I say it's happening here, it is. It's happening to people you know. They may not talk about it, but it's happening to people and businesses all of the time. And so it is a very lucrative industry. And we have now people in certain countries who are being forced into a form of slave labour to try to extort people online. It's a business, and it makes a lot of money, as you can see here. So scammers are really, really efficient, very, very efficient. And the identity theft is something that all of you are responsible for. What is online about you? Have you actually Googled yourself to see what the world knows about you? And I tell you what, some of those online access to work and where you might go to find out whether you're suitable for a job, my goodness me, I could assume that identity and actually commit crime online and in person with all that information. And you think twice before the information you're asked for, when you sign up for any device or anything online, you be careful how much information you give away. Your personal information is really essential to scammers. In today's world of artificial intelligence, good luck from here. So your need to be really alert is even stronger now. So the National Anti-Scam Centre, I'd encourage you all to actually have a look at what's there for you through the National Anti-Scam Centre. Because Scam Watch, and we've heard about it today, WA Scam Watch as well, you better know what the latest scam is because they change constantly. Constantly. There's new scams all of the time. And the online romance scams, I've dealt with people in this community who've lost upwards of $70,000. A man who sent $54,000, all of his savings, by way of a bank transfer, and then wanted me to actually tell Australia Post to give it back. I've seen people do really stupid things who've come to me when they've done something really silly, involved with someone on a social media site. It goes a bit far, send photos. How about you turn on your camera? Mine's broken. But gee, there's some things that we could share. We'll never see each other. I'm in America, you're in Australia. I'm going to send you some photos to start with, quite intimate photos. And then you can send me some. We can share stuff online. No one's going to know. And how about you turn on your webcam and you'll film yourself engaged in a sex act? I'll do the same. It's the closest we'll ever get. And after all, we've been talking together for 12 or 18 months now. You know how much I care about you. You know I'd do anything for you, and I hope one day we're going to be together. Well, don't be surprised for the guy that rang me up and said, I've done something really stupid. I said, what this time? And he said, yes, I did exactly that. And I turned on my web camera, and it was videoed at the other end. And I said, surprise me and tell me what the next message was. Well, if you don't send me $10,000, I'm going to show your wife your work in the local newspaper. But they are very, very clever. And they work overtime. What do they really want? Your money. This is just another form of extortion, sextortion. And you need to be so careful online because they are very, very good at actually encouraging very vulnerable people to engage with them. And I say to all the young people, you should only be talking online to people you know in the real world because that's the only way you can stay safe, and you better hope it's actually them. Because when I get kids of 8 years of age who are allowed to be on social media, my skin crawls. Who's responsible? Where are our parents? And when you're online and your kids and grandkids are with you, what is your responsibility as well? The identity theft, the amount of information that's out there about you, people can actually use that to commit crime and fraud in your name. And we went through a stage where people had enough, 100 points to walk into a bank and be able to sell your property without your approval. 100 points of identification. How much of your information is online? That's actually your responsibility. So the common thing about fake websites, the amount of people that have gone from here for a weekend in Perth, we bought it online, it was such a great deal. When they get there, there's no booking. And I was doing a presentation at a school, a high school, and I was talking about the amount of information that people give away online and how you should never give your information out to someone who rings you. And a woman started grabbling for her phone because the NBN had not long gone through, and someone had just rung her to say, oh, we're from Telstra. You've just had your NBN connected. Yes. We need to make sure that every device in your home is properly connected and you can do your own business. She lost $10,500. I had one woman lost $130,000 in a romance scam. Lonely person, on their own, remote and small community. So what the scammers are after is your money or your identity, because they get both. But it's in your hands, you're behind the screen. So the shopping scams, the amount of young people and mature age people who shop online, do they do any real checks? Is that a genuine site? What sort of payment am I using? Why are children allowed to use their parents' credit card? And why do you have a credit card for purchases online? How you're going to pay online really matters as to how much information people have about you. And of course, we've seen lots of bulk extortion And of course, the other thing you'd better know about, even on every device and app and game that you're into, the tracking and mapping. I get really cross with people who think that TikTok is a benign influence. Think again. They're actually scraping an extraordinary amount of information, not only about you, but about Australia and what we do and how we do it. So you need to think very carefully with what you're on. So, people want to get your trust and your money. Money's the end game. Trust is how we get there. So you cannot trust anyone that you don't know online, and don't trust the photo they send you. Often that comes from someone they've scraped online as well. It's not their photo. It's the photo they think you will respond to, given your age and what they already know about you by the information they've found about you online, what you're interested in, what you liked, what music you like, where you go for entertainment. And I get extremely frustrated with people who put every movement on social media. This is where we're going for tea. Can't wait. Going to my favourite restaurant in Bunbury, and this is what I'm going to eat. I'm going to send you some photos when I'm there. Well, don't be surprised if anything that can move in 10 minutes is gone from your home. You just told the whole world, unless you've got your security settings on your social media sites in place, where you were going to be and the fact you were going to be away from home. It sounds really dumb, and it is. But that's in your hands. Why does the world need to know where you are 24 hours a day? The amount of information that gives is ridiculous. But the person who wants to be your friend, because you're so special, it'll be a gradual process. They know a lot about you. They might know that you're lonely. They might know that you have illnesses. They might know what you search online. And all they have to do is send you an email or get you to follow a link, and they can download malware and spyware on your device that allows them to turn on your cameras themselves and film and video what you're doing. They can even turn on the receivers on your phone and listen to your conversations. You be very careful about how much you trust anyone online unless you know them in person and have confidence in that person. And they want to chat to you from social media or on a messaging platform. And of course, a lot of people are meeting others on dating sites at the moment as well. And they may have an emergency. The guy or the woman with 130,000, that gentleman, and I use the term loosely, in America, who said, I want to be with you. We've developed a relationship over such an amount of time. We need to be together physically. I want to come to Australia, but my brother needs an operation, and in the US we have a different form of medical system and we have to pay for it. So I can't come to you until I pay for his operation. And just before we leave, we've got another problem about my visas, okay? So I need more money. And I've just got to Hawaii and someone's stolen my wallet. Can you send more money? You know that I'm coming to be with you. You know we're going to be together forever. You know how much I care for you and what we've shared so far. $130,000 later, nothing and no one. And if you're that person who's lonely, who's probably lost a partner, what does that do to you? And also, how do you fund your retirement in a small community with very few people? So the cost of this is greater, as you've already heard today, than just the physical and financial loss. So everybody will need your money, and it's how they're going to get it. And it's whether you're actually sucked in to give it to them. And it's your choice and your responsibility. You're behind the screen. So I hope you do your homework on anyone who chooses to be your friend. And when I get young kids allowed to accept friend requests online, and they've got over 450 friends, I know that at least a third of those are pretending to be someone else. It's an enormous risk. And I ask young people, how many of them talk to mum and dad or a carer about what's happening online? A proportion of the hands go up. I ask them how many of them can and do talk to mum and dad or a parent or a carer about what's happening online. A proportion of hands go up. Last question, how many of you go to meet people online somewhere away from your home that you've only first met online? In all the hundreds of presentations, I've only had a handful of classes where hands have not gone up. And you wonder why our children have problems. And they can tell me where they go. And the same way that those people are tracking and mapping our kids, they're tracking and mapping you too. Do you know how to turn off tracking and mapping on every device and app and game? Have you done it? Why does the world need to know where you are? And what does that tell them about what they need to know about you and your life? So please protect yourself. You really need to make very good decisions in this space. You're welcome to take photos of these. These come from ScamWatch. And this is the sort of information you need. So a lot of people are looking for relationships online, but they also need to know how to stay safe in that space. Stay safe by staying updated around scams and spot people who just want your information or want to get access to your money. Never, never send money to anyone you haven't met and don't know personally, and that you're absolutely sure it's them who's asking you for the money. You have no idea how clever they are at assuming other people's identities online and scamming money out of people. The online profile doesn't mean to say they are who they say they are. People, I've had kids even, young people and mature age people who've got 5 and up to 10 different online identities and profiles. So if you think that people are who they say they are not. But it is your responsibility to do your homework and make sure that you're communicating and accessing people that you know in the real world. So if the scammer gets angry with you or threatens you, it's a red flag. They're trying to force you into something that they know is in their interest, not in yours. And you need to be sure that they are who they say they are. And for goodness sake, can you stop sharing everything about your life? All you're doing is giving those that want to scam you the information as to the how to get to you. It sounds like common sense, and it is. But I am constantly appalled at the amount of information that people think it's okay to share online and that no one else will see it or know. A half-decent hacker and a kid with a decent search engine can bring up everything you've ever done online. Everything. Everything you've liked, everything you've shared, every video, everything you've ever done. And I even had one kid who was 12 and he said to me, me and my brother have downloaded some hacking gear. I said, you know that's against the law, that people can go to jail for this stuff. And he said, yeah, but we have a lot of fun. I said, what do you do? He said, we drive around Bunbury at night and we park outside people's places that got Wi-Fi and no security, and we use their devices, their Wi-Fi systems. It sounds really simple, doesn't it? He's 12. So it's common sense in this space, and you need to do every single thing you can and get the advice you need to stay safe. The Office of the E-Safety Commissioner has an extraordinary amount of information for people as well, and besides our scam centre as well. So how to spot a fake profile? They usually have photos that look really professional. They can be blurry or unclear, so it's harder to see who they are. There can be very little personal information. There might be a few comments, likes or shares from other people, but it's quite tight. So the deepfake technology now with AI makes this almost impossible to detect unless you're very switched on. And the average user online will find it difficult to identify the AI created images and profiles. So I think there's an even greater responsibility for us all ahead here. So this one here is just you can read through that. This is the very clever way, and this can happen to men or women. It's not isolated to women, and it's not isolated to men. It's a gradual process. And I'll give you a couple of minutes. It basically reflects what I've been talking about. And if I can get your trust, and you think that I care about you, because I do, you are very, very special. We're going to share things. I'm going to care about you more than anyone else in your life forever. These are the things that you can do that we can share even though we're not physically together. So this reminds me very much of that woman that lost $130,000. It's a very careful process, very calculated, and designed to make you trust someone you don't know, someone with a fake profile, someone who knows all about you because they've researched you online and you've given away so much information. They know that you're in the CWA, which also stands for Chicks with Attitude. They know that you're part of a men's shed. They know where you like to go to eat. They know about your family. They know about your music tastes. They know what you search online. It's easy to be your friend when you've got all that information. So, we have Operation Firestorm with the Australian Federal Police, and I worked closely with the Australian Federal Police in my time. And it disturbs me greatly because I constantly refer to children, because you've got kids and grandkids. And when the AFP tells me that 4-year-olds are being conned online to uploading totally inappropriate content, the problem is right here and now, very early in our kids' lives and in your lives as well. So you need to take this really seriously. And so 300 computers, 1,000 mobile phones, thousands of SIM cards gathered as evidence, 5,000 Australians notified by the National Anti-Scam Centre that they're potentially in contact with either an investment or romance scammer. That's people you know. It's people in this part of the world. Even one of the gentlemen here who lost 70 grand wasted another 5, flying to where he thought this woman said she lived to try to get the money back. So you really have to be sharp and aware in this space. Lifeline and Beyond Blue, really important in this space, because when this happens to people, it can destroy them. Emotionally, physically, financially, all of the above. And even when I get an adult who would come into my office and shut the door and say, I've done something stupid, I've shared photos with someone else who's not in my life. And now they're viral. So no matter what someone asks you, never ever send any naked or semi-naked photos online in any form to anyone. I don't care whether they're your partner, your husband, your wife, or whatever it is. That photo is then accessible with people who can actually access it. Do you think hackers and anyone with a reasonable search engine and anyone who knows their way around the internet can't get all of your information and gear? They can. So this is something that then is used for sextortion, threatening you. It's not just our young people who have been sharing their photos naked and semi-naked with things like Snapchat and other. We have a lot of national and international pedophile rings and people with folders full of our kids. Our kids got sucked in by Snapchat, so did adults. Snapchat told them their photos would disappear in a few seconds. Well, they didn't. People took screenshots. Then there was an app called SnapSaver that automatically saved every Snapchat photo. So there's folders full of them being shared. And you've seen the damage that this has done to our kids locally. And you recently saw a young man over east commit suicide, and there's been arrests in this space. But they were operating offshore to extort and sextort our kids. So this is the sort of information the AFP was able to access. There's just so much of it, and it's constant. So, simple old-fashioned message, anything online that is too good to be true, the deal, the caring person, how I make you trust me and believe that I really love you and want to be with you forever. The things we're going to share and do. If it sounds too good to be true, it actually is. So every site, every game, every app, you do your homework. You know exactly what you're getting into and what the risk is. And so if you've already lost some money or you've lost part of your identity, you really need to know where to go to get help. ScamWatch is fabulous, but you need to act very quickly to stop any further losses. And you need to contact your credit card provider straight away. Even watch your debit cards. And sometimes the phishing in those accounts is a small amount, $5, $10, just to see if the number works. One? There you go, $1. So you do need ID care. I've directed a number of people to our national ID care whose identities have been used. Even if you suspect that it is, get in touch with ID care. And this is where we work with New Zealand as well. And they can really help you with a free plan to limit the damage. And if you know people this has happened to, please tell them to contact ID care. Get the help you need. I had a young relative who had money moved out of his superannuation fund. And that was a nightmare. And of course his ID was gone as well. So it was a huge challenge to get the money back, but because it had gone through a bank, that was possible. But his identification was another deal altogether. So ID care, and you must report every scam. And when, the bank is not going to ring you and ask you for that personal information, neither is Centrelink. And mature age Australians are at greater risk because we are more trusting. Because we were brought up in a time where you could trust someone who said, I'm from the bank, I'm from Centrelink, I need your information. So it's up to us to make sure that mature age Australians are not so subject to scams as we see. We had a woman in this part of the world lost $5,340 just trying to buy a puppy online that never turned up. And the most, when I asked kids, how much have you lost from something you tried to buy online that never turned up? A 14-year-old kid, $800 worth. That's just a drop in the bucket from what adults have lost when what they actually sought to buy online didn't turn up, was a scam. So the good habits, you better do a privacy checkup. Go through the settings on your social media accounts and really check what you've got to do. Your social media accounts may still use the default settings, and some of these platforms at different times reset themselves, and your security settings go back to basic. They better be on the highest level, and that better be something you check constantly, okay? It shouldn't take too long at all. You double check it. Won't take you long to do it, but it's your responsibility. You're online. I'm not behind that screen. You are. So set strong passwords, passcodes, update old ones, and consider a multi-factor authentication if possible. And when you're going to buy a new device of any sort, you better research the security on that device to know how vulnerable you are by using that device and how to stay safe. And for goodness sake, as I say to the kids as well, change your passwords every 3 months without fail. No one other than you should know your passwords. Not a best mate, not a brother or sister, no one else. And when you're in an airport or in a public space, don't sit where a camera is focused on you, a security camera. Who's behind the security camera? If you log into your accounts, or if you decide to do some banking, what can people access? How secure is it? I never ever use Wi-Fi in any public location or at a hotel, ever, never. So you need to update them constantly. It's your responsibility to make sure that your passwords are constantly, passphrases, all updated. And make sure you know exactly how often that you should do this to protect yourself. And nobody but you should know it. But you, as some of you are mature, where are you going to store them And as you develop your end-of-life care plans and your advanced care plans, who's going to have access to those so that your business can be sorted if you're no longer capable? Who's got access to them? Is it safe? And where are they? And can they do what you need done and shut down when you're no longer here? Don't share your passwords with anyone, and make sure you keep your apps and software. Now, they often can just naturally update now, and a lot of the rubbish is gone. But the E-Safety Commissioner people, they actually update their security settings 5 times a day in their security. Just how it is. And you need to turn your devices off at least once a day to try to remove some of the rubbish that's there. But again, this is your responsibility. And please don't add people on social media that you've only met online. You've got no idea who they are or why they want to be your best friend all of a sudden. You stay safe by communicating with people that you know. So, when websites or apps or someone trying to sell you something, like a mobile phone or other, wants all of this information about you, no. It's out there for the world to access. You'll wonder why there's so many scams. You can tell I'm really frustrated in this space because I've been at this for so long and I've been talking like talking to a brick wall because you're responsible. So, don't give them all of that information. Make sure you regularly Google yourself. Clear off anything out there that's about you that you don't want. And as AI develops, I hope you're regularly Googling yourself to make sure that your head hasn't been superimposed on a naked or compromised photo. Compromising, because this will be a job for us as time goes on as well. So, limit the amount of personal information that you post online. Have you got that message today? Have you got that message today? Yes. Are you going to clear what's already there that shouldn't be there? If you're not, you need to go. That's your decision, but I hope to heck you do. You need to be suspicious of any unsolicited requests for personal information or urgent requests for money. And you should never, ever feel pressured to act quickly online. That's a red flag. So, never access banking or other online accounts from an email or an SMS link. Use a dedicated app, a bookmarked link, or type in the address. I've been getting some emails at home from people that are telling me there's problems with my accounts, that they're not up to date, they haven't got the right access. I might need to fill in my information. All you do is look at the address where it's come from. It certainly isn't anything official for a start. And if the bank ever sends me anything, the first thing I do is ring my local branch and say, did you ring me? What was it that you needed? Who is it that rang me? And if someone rings me, I ask, well, who are you? Be careful, because people record your voice as well. And with AI, they can use that to authenticate all sorts of purchases and other. That's another game for us as well. So, I never give out that information, and I double check with the local branch whether they've actually contacted me and what it was they wanted from me. And you do not take anything any phone call, anything that comes online. You have to check and double check every single time. So never give someone remote access to your computer. And if people come into your home and use your computer, I hope you check the history afterwards and remove anything that should not be there. Never give someone your personal credit card or online account details in an email. Anyone can access that. Only need half a brain online. Research websites and check reviews before you make a payment for something. We had a whole lot of people scammed in Bunbury there's been several different fake websites set up with great specials. You know, if it's too good to be true, it definitely is. And remember that government agencies will never request payment in the form of a gift card. You're laughing. It is a laugh, but how many people do it? You wonder why and how people get scammed. And as I said, scammers can remotely access your webcam and your laptop and computer. For goodness sake, cover it up, cover up the camera part, just to be sure, just to make sure, because that information... We had a 6-year-old who followed their mother into the shower live streaming. Yeah, but this is what's going on. Kids are brilliant with technology. And we put ourselves at risk when we aren't managing the technology. It's fabulous technology. It does a great job for us all. But you need to know the risks that go with it. Now, I've got a list of these. I've got about 40 copies, I think, here. I printed off, of these, where to go to get the help I've spoken about today from ScamWatch, and you've got some wonderful resources at the front with ScamWatch as well. There's ScamNet, there's ID Care, and more of you need this than you realise. There's Beyond Blue, of course, and Lifeline. There's www.cyber.gov.au, the cyber security resources, and to report a cyber crime. And we do know, and I know personally from the people I've worked with and for all these years, the terrible financial and emotional cost. And one of the great things can be how stupid you feel when it's you, and how you can't believe that you were taken in by this, and how that now has compromised your retirement. So, look after people in your life if this happens. Help them to get the help they need. And if it's you, make sure you get the help you need, because it will have not only a financial cost, but a significant emotional cost as well. But if you are experiencing financial hardship, you can speak with a financial counsellor through the National Debt Helpline, and I've got that number there as well. So I want to urge you, and I hope I'm very blunt, and it has historically got me into some strife, but I've been at this for an awfully long time, and I have struggled to get people to take it seriously. So thank you for actually listening today. I hope even if there's one thing out of this, when I talk to young people, I say to them at the end of it, was there one thing you heard today that's going to help you to have a wonderful experience when you're online, but to keep yourself and your family safe at the same time? And I frequently ask the kids and grandkids, please help your parents to know what's happening online. Please help them with the latest games and apps and what's happening so that you can learn as a family. Because in this space, the families are in this together. It's actually not a government job. It's a family's job to keep each other safe. And that applies online as well as it does in the real world. So I've got these simple handouts if you want them. Thank you for listening and taking an interest. But if you walk away from here today and think, I've got this, you're wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Are there any questions?
Absolutely. And the 3 questions because kids are given a device at birth. I can't be in that room, I wish I could, but they're given a device at birth and it's connected to the internet. More of our kids need to be given the dumb phone that's just a phone, right? That just allows them to ring mum and dad or whenever they need help to be able to get that help, or pick me up or whatever it is, and the kids should have access to that, in my opinion, when they're young. But because they're given devices that are connected to the internet at a very young age, everywhere you go now, in prams and at the supermarket, There's a device propped up in front of a child that's connected often to the internet. And they are very good and very young when they know how to use it. So yes, and the fact that a 4-year-old knows how to take and send a photo to someone else that the AFP told me about tells me they most definitely do. So the education piece needs to start before the first device is given, and the family needs to decide what are the rules in our house about how we all use our devices and how we're going to manage that as it continues to evolve and change. But the answer is most definitely.
That's scary. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, one question. We have a microphone just because then the people online can hear the question. Thanks.
I'm just sort of interested outside of online. Like we're all members of clubs, and when we join a club, we give over our name, address, sometimes birth date, email, and phone number. What's the risk of giving that information over if it was to be sort of stolen from the membership database manager?
What security have you got?
Well, that's the question.
Yes, it is. You better have good security on your system because it's your responsibility to protect that information. And we've seen massive amounts of accessing Telstra, all sorts of major organisations and government organisations as well. So if you need to get good advice, good security advice, and you can research it as well, and you can go and talk to the government agencies I was just talking about as to how to best secure your information. But if you're holding that as an organisation, you need to protect your members' information. One of the greatest risks is remote access, even for business, and it's something when I went and did a bit with defence as well. You've got to be very careful. I don't know whether you saw recently where a heck of a lot of information about Russian nuclear missile sites was accessed and dumped. Everyone had access to it. If it can be done because of remote access in that situation, it can be done anywhere from remote access. And you better make sure that anyone that's got remote access has security on their devices.
Thanks for that.
Got another question down the front.
Thank you. Just two quick questions. How secure is Password Manager?
Sorry?
How secure is Password Manager?
How secure is Password Manager?
To my knowledge, it's relatively safe,
Yeah.
but I trust very little online.
So do I.
And I am sceptical. I am sceptical about any form of safety online. I think there's a lot of work going into how to stay safe. Do I think I'm of the view when I'm online that everything I do online can and will be seen by others. That is how I manage what I do online, because that's the view I have, which is why if I'm buying something online, I try to use a secure payment method, as secure as I can find, but I don't believe that it's secure. I just think we've got to accept the fact that whatever's there can and will be accessed at some point. If you don't go into it knowing that, or thinking that, you're not going to manage the risks, because the risks are going to keep increasing.
Yeah.
And I am very, very wary, which is why very, very careful about anything I do, and even people who travel, you know, what they use when they're overseas, how they pay. You know, you've now got banking on your phone. And, you know, you look at some of the work that's been done on some of the networks and on Wi-Fi and people sitting next to each other, what they can access, Bluetooth, you name it. You know, I think I work on the assumption whatever I do online can and will be seen and or used by someone else at a point.
Thank you. The other one was, how does somebody of my vintage understand the current terminology? The questions you get asked on some of the stuff on the computer, I've got no idea whether they want a negative or a positive answer. So how do I determine what they're asking me?
So are you involved with some of the seniors groups and the run sessions for mature age people to help them not only to use the technology but also to manage? So some of the senior citizens, are you involved with the senior cits?
No.
Right, because that's a good place to start. And even through some of the community resource centres, John, you've got those sorts of facilities about. Where do you live?
Leschenault.
Leschenault. So, John, have you got a suggestion as to, with the community resource centre, or even... Okay, Brunswick has a community resource centre and they will help you. Yeah, but equally, one of the great things, besides my great passion for men's sheds, is that if you go to a men's shed, there are blokes there that will know what to do, and other women as well, like Kate and others, who can help you.
Right, thank you.
And up to a point, they can help you with, if you get to talk to those sort of people. Do you share that information when you're with your men's sheds? Any of you? Yes? So Brunswick has a technician who comes.
Good, thank you.
So those sorts of localised options, but if you're not sure, have you got family members who can help you?
I have a son who does all my computing work, but he lives in Melbourne.
Right.
But he's got access to my computer, which, from what you've been saying, I should cancel it. But he's on the phone all the time, and he's over here every 2 or 3 months.
Right. Well, you can when you get some advice on how to manage your computer better, you can have a look at the history of what he's been doing when he's been on there, and you can clean some of that off if it suits you. But I think we have to be very, very careful with anybody else using our devices. I wouldn't be giving my device to anyone else to use.
He's the only one that uses it other than me, and he knows it better than I do.
Right, well, then maybe he can help teach you.
He does all the time.
Good.
Gets frustrated too.
Yeah. But it is certainly an issue for a lot of mature age people, and there's also a great fear that a lot of older people have, that they're too scared to touch buttons in case it all disappears and I don't know how to get it back. And, you know, if I press that, what happens? So that's why the more information you can get from people, and even, as I said, with kids and young kids, some of us even give our TV remote to a kid and they'll fix it just like that. So they are brilliant with technology and they can help us, but the safety issues is another ballgame.
Fine, thank you.
I'd like to ask about, on my phone I have what's called a wallet, and I've got my cards stored in there. How safe is that? I think it's through Google. I'm not even 100% sure about that.
We've got WA Scam Watch sitting right here. What would your answer be to that question?
Are you talking about with an Apple iPhone? An Android phone. I wouldn't be 100% sure on the security of it. You do need to keep all of your devices very secure, making sure that you're updating all of your malware, the spyware, and all of those. And you need to be doing those updates from the source. But there are some password managers and wallets that can be secure, so depending on the type of device that you have. But it's really important that you do your research on those before you use them, and use them with a lot of care. But I can definitely find out a bit more information for you specifically on the one that you have if you want to come up and have a chat when we finish.
Good idea, good question.
Hi, just a quick one, Nola. When you're talking about small clubs, I was at a presentation the other day that said they're one of the places that they actually type of target because of the low security. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm looking at with an organisation that I'm involved with at the moment is that we'll have a computer there, but it won't be connected to the web at all, and that will keep all our information on it about our members and anything that's restricted or confidential. And then we'll have another computer that will be connected to the web, which we would use. Any information we wanted to transfer from one to the other, we would do using a USB, and that USB would be checked before it was uploaded onto the other computer to ensure that no malware had been put onto it during that course of that action.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful if someone gives you a USB.
Oh, absolutely.
What you can download off that onto your system and what it gives them access to on your device.
Absolutely, and your USB should always have protection on it, so that if someone else steals your USB, they're not going to take it away with your information on it.
Yeah, well, it was interesting many years ago. I was doing a session for a group of kids in part of this, or was then my electorate, and I took Detective Senior Sergeant John Monday with me because it was a pretty challenging group. And of course these young people were at an age where they certainly knew more about devices than I did, and so John sat in the corner. At one point he said, "So, can I interrupt?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "So," he mentioned a young man's name. "Where is this young man in the room who was sitting partway up the concourse?" And John said to him, "Well, while Nola's been talking, you've been sending some interesting messages to a young lady." And he said, "And you've also got some interesting plans for each other for the weekend. And by the way, I've had a good look at your photos." The young man nearly rolled down the stairs. We had Bluetooth turned on and no security. There you go, open door for anyone around you. It's that simple. So I think you've got a great responsibility now with keeping your members and information safe, and you need to make every effort you can. And if you need to get advice from ScamWatch on that as well, I would. But I think you need to take a forensic approach to it. Because, as John rightly says, you are a wealth of information, and there are those individual actors who seek to do us harm, but there are also broader international actors who will seek to do us harm and use that information for their purposes, both one-on-one as well as collectively.
How secure is the cloud? Because...
What is the cloud? It's a bunch of computers somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I can't answer for how much security they've got on their systems.
Right.
So when I said to you, I make the assumption that whatever I do online is there, and if it's not now, at some point, those who want to access it probably will be able to.
It's just that we have a national body that has their own cloud system, and we've been recommended to store our materials there because it's supposed to be, according to them, more secure from their IT department.
Well, I would make sure that I spoke to our national cyber care, get the best advice. Has anything been of help? I hope so, because you will all be using the internet. It's a fabulous tool, but you need to stay safe, and you don't assume that anything and everything cannot and will not be seen by others. Assume that it will, and you will make much better decisions about everything that you do online. And as I said, if a deal seems too good to be true, it is. And it doesn't matter who the person is. In the romance space, they are after your money. So no matter what they say to you, unless you know those people in person, you really have no confidence that they are who they say they are and that they do genuinely care about you and want a relationship. I know there are a lot of relationships now online through Tinder and other apps, but you need to be very careful. And if you know someone on Tinder, encourage them not to use photos of their kids as part of that, because sometimes the kids are the target.
Thanks, Nola.